let's look at the following question. So you deposit $4,000 in an account that pays 6% annual interest compounded. What would the balance be after 3 years? Okay. So when we approach these type of questions, we see 4,000. Okay. Meaning that you deposit 4,000. Okay. Meaning if I go to the bank, I'm going to the bank with $4,000 in my pocket. Okay, so I go to the bank with $4,000. I come to the bank and there's little Johnny. Little Johnny tells me if I invest my money into their bank, I can get 6% on top of my money. But we follow compounded annually. And when we see the word annual or annually, that usually means once a year. Okay, when we see quarterly, it would be like 4 times a year. When we see monthly, it's 12 times a year. And then when we see 365, it's every single day. Or 365 would be daily, right? And now we see 6. So we know my interest rate. Our interest rate would be 6%. Now when you work with these type of questions, right, the first thing you always want to do is you want to take your percentage to decimal. Okay, whenever you see like 6 type, because it's very, very, very easy to make a mistake. So let's do this. Let's say that I'm going to take 6%. I will take this to a decimal. Well, I will divide with 100, meaning the decimal will jump 2 slots to the right. So it's 0.06, 0.06. Okay. Now, there's one formula we need to memorize. The formula will be A is equal to P 1 plus R over N NT. Okay. P will be the money I go into the bank with. A will be the money I come out of the bank with. R will be the money or the amount little Johnny tells me, hey, listen, you can put the money with me. N would be annually, okay? Meaning that it will only be once per year. So N would be the terms. So again, if we talk about compounded quarterly, N would then be 4. If we talk about compounded daily, N would be 365, unless it's a leap year. And T will be the amount of years, okay? T would be the amount of years. Okay, so now how do we put these things into a formula? We want to find A because the question says, what would the balance be after 3 years? Okay, so I'm going to start off by listing my P, which will be my initial amount. So this is how it works. Okay, I go into the bank with P. After 3 years, 3 years has passed, 3 years later, I walk out of the bank with A. So P is the money I take into the bank after investing. A is what I will come out with. Now I'm going to say 1 plus. Remember what I said, that we want to take our percentage to decimal. So I'm going to say 1 plus, or I'm going to say, 1 plus 1 over 0.6 over 1. 0.06 over 1. To the power, N being 3. So it's going to be 3 multiply 1. T being 3. Oh, I'm making so many mistakes. Okay. Now, after this is done, I'm going to head over to my calculator. Actually, firstly, we can simplify this ourselves. Anything over 1 is 1. So we can say 1 plus 0.06, which is just going to be 1.06 to the power of 3. Now, if I type this in on a calculator, let's go 4,000 parentheses 1.06 and then raised to the third power. I get a value of 4,600. 4764.064. Okay, I found my value after 3 years. Now let me introduce you to a new formula. So we know now that R, as we said, is the interest rate, which is 0.06. We know that A is 4764.064. And we know that my P, which would be my initial amount, is equal to 4,000. Now let's say they give us all these values and they ask us to calculate T. How would we possibly do that? Well, now to calculate T, we're going to have a little bit of a longer formula, but it's something worth memorizing. Of course, we can solve it by following algebra and exponential rules. Actually, logarithmic rules, but let me introduce you to this formula. So the formula would be T is equal to log base 10 parentheses A over P over N multiply log base 10 parentheses 1 plus R over N. Okay, this is how we find the amount of years. Okay. Now, a very common mistake could be to, if you find, let's say they give you the value of A, this equation would be very easy. But let's say you have to calculate A and then prove that T is actually T, you will need to use this formula. So whenever you have a compounded interest question where they ask you, hey, you need to find the amount of years I need to invest to achieve, boom. We're going to be using this formula. Now, it's very important that you input this value exactly as is into A. Okay, even if there's 20 decimal spots, you're going to use all 20 of them. Otherwise, your final answer might be off by point something. And in terms of years, if I have like 2.9 years, that could mean a couple of days difference. You understand? So now let's input these values. So let's say T is equal to log base 10 parentheses A being 4764.064 over P being 4,000 over N. So N, remember N is a term, so it's going to just be simply 1. I don't really have to write this, but for the video I will do that. Log base 10 parentheses 1 plus R being 0.06 over 1. Again, this would just be 1.06. I'm going to show you how to find this answer exactly on a calculator. And if I do type it correctly on the calculator, I should find 3. Because remember, we used 3 to find A. So now if I had to calculate T by using this in the final amount, I should find 3, right? T should be equal to 3. So let's see. Okay, so you're going to go to your calculator, going to create a fraction. This log up here, it would be different on every single calculator, but you find this one, press it, log 10, go. Inside the parentheses, you create another fraction. Okay, it's very important that you type this correctly on the calculator. We're going to type 4764.04 or 064. You need to type the exact value you found for A. Okay, and then below the fraction, we're going to do it again. We're going to say log 10, log base 10, excuse me. Then we're going to have 1 plus 0.06. Or you can just add it normally. And then now we should find 3 if I typed it in correctly. And there we go, found the 3.